Hi all, this is just an update on the X-Wing build. I'm getting a bit further along now. I think you've probably seen some photos that I've posted on the X-Wing. The engines are in place. I've still got to sort out little R2 and the cockpit. So I've got little plans for that. Little R2 is going to have some fibre optics which are going to go through these little holes, and they're going to provide the little lights. And what I've been spending quite a bit of time on in the last few days, I'm just going to take this apart. Turn that off. They do work quite well, those engines. I'm really pleased with those. Anyway, right, so this is what I've been spending my time on over the last few sessions. I've been out here in the shed, basically using everything I can find. You may remember this was just a blank, pale, or rather plain. Well, it was like that really. It's just one of these letters that you get in hobby stores and places like that, and you fill them with things, and you sort of I don't know, put them up in kids' bedrooms and stuff to do their initials or their names or what have you. So it's just one of those, cost a couple of quid I think. It's just a little plywood letter X, and I thought what better for an X-Wing model than a stand that looks like an X, but rather than paint it black like I often do with my stands, I thought let's make this look like the surface of the Death Star. We'll make it look like buildings on the surface of the Death Star. We've even got things like antenna arrays going on there, courtesy of some matchsticks and some little beads from hobby stores. You can see if I zoom in there. There we go. You got some little radar dishes on the end of some cocktail sticks. And I'm using things that I'm trying to use things that you can't immediately recognise. There's a couple of servo horns from radio controlled cars here. There's one there, which I thought also looked like some sort of antenna array or radar system or something. Hi, just another little update. We're doing a bit more on the base for the X-Wing build. Trying to make a stand that looks something like the surface of the Death Star. And this is basically all I'm doing. Just got various different pieces of wood, styrene, little beads, all sorts of things from hobby shops, and I'm just literally cutting pieces to fit like this. I'm trying to make them look roughly like some kind of building or some kind of structure, and then, you know, just painting them, shaping them, whatever really, to make it look like they fit. And just sometimes you see, you do something and you think, yeah, that works well. Other times you think, oh no, not sure about that, so you might need to change something. That actually wasn't cut for that bit, but it works better for there than where I was going to put it. So for example, there's an idea. So yeah, it's very, very spontaneous, very much made up as you go, but oops, gives you an idea. I'm working on R2 at the moment. I'm just going to go in the back of the X-Wing fighter, and the plan is I'm going to put quite a bright white LED up inside of R2. I've drilled a couple of holes for where the lights are going to be. That's the two blues and the red on the front, and the idea is simply to pop the LED in around there. And I'm going to put some little fibre optics in and just melt over the ends to make little lenses for them, and then colour them so that I've got my blue, my two blue, my red and my yellowy green at the back, which are the right colours for the lighting. There's one slot light at the back which I don't think I'm going to do because it's just a bit too small really, so I'm just going to have that one. That's the back. That's going to be the one that's sort of yellowy greeny. And at the front we've got the two data port lights, which will be blue, and then the mood light, which will be red. I figured it'll be red as he's flying on his own. He's probably a little bit anxious. So for anyone who doesn't know, I think that was I'm pretty sure that was the original idea with the mood light on R2-D2. It goes blue when he's relaxed and okay, it goes red when he's a bit stressed. Not that robots can get stressed, of course, but there you go. Anyway, so that's the plan. I've just got some, I'm just melting up, or rather firing up my hot glue gun, and I'm just going to place that in there, seal R2 up, fill the gaps so I don't have any light gaps, paint him, and then get those little light lenses in. And in the meantime I'm sort of doing little bits and pieces to this as we go, just to give it a bit more detail. It's looking okay, but I think there's still some gaps in there. We could still have a bit more detail. The more detail, the more convincing it'll be, basically. But I don't think on the whole that's too bad. Hey guys, right, doing a little bit of the work on the inside of this X-Wing now. I'm having a bit of trouble in the cold with the airbrush, so I'm doing a little bit of dry brushing. Well, hand painting and then a little bit of dry brushing for the details, so experimenting a little bit. So that's the that's going to be the cockpit. I'm just doing R2 at the moment. He's got his little LED in. He's all glued up. I'm starting to paint him, just masked off his eye. Ooh, it's come around R2, there we go. So that's going to be his little eye. And I'm just going to mask off each panel separately and paint them, and then do some little coloured lenses for the lights, and hopefully he's going to look pretty good. What I've done as well is I've also painted some of the inside of the cockpit area so that the inside of the window struts are the right colour. That's what I was trying to show you. So it just means that the inside of the cockpit is the right colours if you're looking at an angle. I'm going to do a lit screen and some lit dials, just with, you know, the light shining through, something like that. Might need to do some more holes at some point, but you get the idea. So yeah, and when R2's done as well, it should look quite cool, hopefully. So I'll do a little bit more. Basically, if the airbrush was, if it wasn't so, I think it's just too cold and damp out here in the shed. So I'm just going to try this hand brushing. It's not been too bad so far. Bear in mind the size of that compared to my finger. He's pretty small. So I'll try and do some of these blue panels, and I'll come back to you and show you how it's going. Hi folks, right, this is just a little light test. Maybe a bit silly, but I've given R2 his own little lights. Now I'll make up some coloured lenses so that the one on the right on the eye will be red and the two data ports on the left will be blue, and then round the back where he's got a sort of greeny yellow one, that's lit as well. So the engines are going to be lit, the cockpit's going to be lit, even R2-D2 is going to be lit. That rings a bell. Okay, okay, I've done a little bit more work on R2. Nowhere near finished, but you get the idea with the lights. They need colouring. One will be red, the other two will be blue, but ooh, you get the idea. It's a bit small to do it really hyper neatly, but it gives the impression, which is a lot about what this is all about, really. Okay, more on the X-Wing build. I've prepared lots of fiber-optic cables, and what I've done, I've done an old trick. I did it earlier on with R2-D2's lights on his head. I don't know if I can even get the camera to focus on this, but where am I? By holding a fibre optic next to a heat source like a match, you can make the end melt over and it forms a nice little dome, which makes a superb little light switch or bulb. So I've done a load of those. I'm now going to, and I've also drilled out and painted the cockpit area. I'm going to use some Canopy Glue, which is just like white glue basically. It glues, it dries clear, but unlike CA, cyanoacrylate or super glue, this won't eat the fibre optics, because if you do this with the fibre optics, if you use super glue, they'll just snap into, they'll just melt basically. So so what I'm doing to do this is I'm using some very low-tech stuff here. Cocktail stick, dipped into some white glue, popped into the hole, and then thread the fibre optic through so that it holds in place. It's going to take a while, but that's basically the principle, and I'll do a little test at the end. Okay, so that's the cockpit. What I've done, I'm holding it in a little vise here, and I've glued in the first of the fibre optic cables, and I'm just leaving it like that now. Now the white glue or the Canopy glue takes 3 hours to cure before you can handle the model, and it does a full cure in 24 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this in this position for 3 hours, turn it 90 degrees, and then I'm going to do the ones that go in that way, the vertical ones. So these are sort of the horizontal ones where I'm going to have a little screen of some description. Screen might be interesting to do, as I've not left myself a lot of room because of the fibre optic, so I may have to revise that plan as I go, but this should give you an idea how this is going to work. If I shine my phone light onto the ends of some of these fibre optics, you'll see they light up quite nicely. Need to find some of them, but you get the idea. Okay, so that's it for now. I'm going to go back to doing something else. The base still needs a lot of work, although it's really starting to get there now. R2 needs a little more finishing. He's got his little LEDs in as well. He's going to be sitting out the back, obviously. Just need to. I decided not to paint the body detail because it's not going to see it anyway, so I'm just going to white it all over once it's dry. It's only the head you'll see, and that's about as good as I can get for now, I think. Maybe a little bit better on the top there. Whoops. So, yeah. So that's it for now. I'll come back to you when I've got something more to show you. Okay, another little update for the X-Wing build. May seem strange, I know this is going to be grey in the end, but I've just painted the whole thing matte black. It's still wet, so it looks shiny, but it will dry matte black. The reason for that is when I start to put the top coat on the surface, it will help to accentuate the detail, help to put some shadow between all the bits and pieces that you see. So that's the theory. Hopefully it'll work as per the theory. But yeah, so that's it. Here's a little update on R2. Probably saw him earlier on lit up. He's got his little lights. Basically just got one white LED in there with 4 fibre optic lenses that I've made, and I'll give you one last look at how he's looking actually. Back in a contrast, if you look at how the model maker for this box left him, he's just been sprayed silver. No colour, no panels, no nothing. So with a bit of time and effort you can do this. And he's got his own little lights. Let's turn them so you can see them. He's got another one at the back there. A little bit of shadow really to show you. So he's got one just there. 2 for the data ports, so I might redo those. The bottom one's a little bit large and slightly off centre, so I've made those so they're removable. Sorry, it's struggling to focus on him. Come on camera, focus. There you go. So that's the one at the back. And the 2 at the front. And just to give you an idea for scale, there's my thumbnail. So there you go. Anyway, that's it for now. Talk to you soon. Hi there, just a little update on the X-Wing build. I'm starting to think about the wiring. This is the base as it stands at the moment. It's just about got all the detail that I want, I think. It's not amazing or anything, but it does give a pretty good representation of the Death Star surface, I think. And it'll have the X-Wing flying over the top. And I'm using these little connectors again because these pass through the tube, so the thing can be disconnected and reassembled at any point. So there'll be another connector on the end of this. This will either go to a battery box or to a DC power supply or whatever that the client would like. And then the model can be or detached there for shipping, packing, or just whatever. And then on the other side, what we're doing, the X-Wing has got, I'm starting to think about the wiring. There's quite a bit of wiring here, and what I've had to do is fold it back on itself and then bring it forward again, so I can keep it nice and low in here to allow room for all of this, which is the cockpit. Now you'll see I've got a little screen in there. It's actually, I don't know if I can focus on it, I need to light it up really for you to see, but it's actually got a little picture of the crosshairs of the targeting system coming up on a TIE fighter. It's actually a screen grab from Star Wars, part of the Death Star trench run scene. So that's actually, hopefully you'll see it better when it's lit up, but that's what it is. It's a little TIE fighter in the crosshairs. So, and then these are all the fibre optics. They're going to light the little switches, and then somehow I've got to fit all that in here, and there'll be a bulb to power it, which I guess again I will think will be up at this end maybe, although the other place I've got some room. Obviously the nose cone gets quite thin, so there's not a lot of room in there, but there's enough room for some cables and maybe a bulb up the front end. The other option, there's quite a bit of room up in this cavity behind where R2 sits, so I can get quite a bit of wiring up in there. So that's where we are at the moment, but it's coming on. It's coming on. I just need to finalise some of the wiring now, start getting this thing sealed up, and then I can start thinking about proper top coats, etc, etc. Just noticed this unfortunate branding in here, which I don't know if I can get in to do something about. Maybe a bit of strip styrene glued over the top or something. I don't know. I'll see what I can do about that. It'd be nice to hide that if we can. So there we go. That's it for the moment. I'll come back to you a bit later with some more news. Okay, just making sure everything's still working. So we've got basically this is some of the electrics going to go in now. So we've got our engine lights that thankfully still work. Over here we've got the cockpit drying with the screen in place and all the switches in place, hence all the fibre optics. And the base has got its first bit of wiring in, and it's all primed now. I had a coat of black paint underneath, which sort of helps give it a little shading on some of the recessed areas, helps the definition, helps everything stand out a little bit more. But I'm going to do some airbrush work and have some different coloured panels and things at some point as well, just to make that more interesting. So there we go. So 3 bits on the go. We've got the stand, we've got the cockpit, and we've got the fighter, and there's the phone. Bye for now. Right, I've just managed to make another little improvement to the miniature R2-D2 here. The 2 blue data port lights I'd made up some lenses out of fibre optics and then just melted the end to make a little dome so it doesn't go in, and then white glued them or canopy glued them in place. They were a bit big, and the bottom one was bigger than the top one, so now they're much smaller, and I'm much more pleased, much happier with that. So I've got the yellow light on the back, as you should have, and I've got the 2 blue data port lights and the red light on the front. So really quite chuffed with that, considering how small that is compared to my thumbnail. Okay, right, so I think that's probably again all I can show you for the moment. Cockpit's still drying, base is still drying, and R2's got some improved lighting to help with the scale a bit, so hopefully that looks okay. Okay, that's it for now. Talk to you later.